Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here, and I humbly thank you for joining me. Today is a new segment of My Story Time. And for those who don't know, My Story Time is where I tell my story as a way to counter the ever changing official narrative of history, his story. Because no one, not even AI, can tell my life story as a direct reflection of the times in which I lived better than me. And this is where I'm telling it. Now, the story that wants to be told today is coming in from 1985 and begins in Littleton, Colorado, where I was living, and where I woke up in the middle of the night in agony with a dislocated toe that came out of nowhere. Yeah, I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. It was the middle of the night, a Friday night to be exact, and I remember that because I was scheduled to go into work the next day, and that was a Saturday, not a day I usually went into the office. And I woke from a sound sleep with this dull throb that was amplified by a shooting pain coming up my right leg. But it took a few minutes before I was awake enough to realize where the source of that pain was coming from because I was in such a deep sleep. I laid there in the dark for a groggy bit, wondering why I was awake before I connected to the pain in my foot. So, in my confusion, I finally reached under the blankets to touch my toes, my right pinky toe to be exact, because that seemed to be where it was coming from. And when I touched my pinky toe, it just dangled and flopped like it was broken. And that, of course, freaked me out. I began to scream, and then I elbowed husband number one awake while screaming, "My toe is broken. What happened to my toe?" He was sound asleep on his side of the bed and was just as confused as I was when he woke up. We turned on the light and looked at it, perplexed. Since I thought it was broken, I knew at the time there wasn't really anything you could do medically for a broken toe, so I put some tight socks on my feet and went to work the next morning as planned. At work, my toe just throbbed. Oh my God, it throbbed, painfully throbbed with each beat of my heart. All I could think about was the pain and that toe. So I decided I needed to stop into the urgent care on my way home from work, which I did do. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was asked, of course, what happened to the toe by the nursing staff. And I told them what I'm telling you now. I don't know. I had no idea what happened. I just woke up with the pain of that toe. Now, yes, I did consider that I could have hit my toe against my husband's leg in my sleep, causing it to break, but it seemed highly unlikely. Did I go sleepwalking and get injured? Perhaps, but sleepwalking was not anything I'd ever done before or ever, so I dismissed it as a possibility. Was it an abduction? Maybe. I don't know. Still don't. Your guess is as good as mine at this point. Now, the medical staff just kept asking me questions like they didn't believe me, so they made me wait. And by the way, the urgent care was not crowded with patients. It looked like I was the only one there most of the time. But I waited and waited until a doctor came in and the questions began again. Same questions to which I offered the same answers. And I got the distinct impression they all thought I was lying about something, but I'm not quite sure what it was. I mean, I guess people do lie about how things happen medically. But in this case, I really wasn't lying. I did not know. Um, because in their mind, even my mind, how could someone dislocate their toe and not know how they did it? Eventually, they took me in for an X-ray, and the X-ray revealed that my toe was dislocated, not broken, which to me was good news because a dislocated toe could be reset in order to reduce the pain, right? Once more, they made me wait and wait. The doctor came in again and asked the questions again. same questions, to which I offered the same answers. So then he sat down on his little stool and to reset my pinky toe as I lay on the exam table. That process unto itself was enough to make me scream out because he twisted it. I felt like he was torturing me. He twisted it and took a sweet time maneuvering it back into place. And again, the vibe I got was that he was punishing me for what he thought were my lies about how I hurt my toe. Crazy, right? Well, once it was reset, the pain almost immediately dissipated. The swelling and bruising remained for a bit around the base of the toe, but the pain pretty much went away and I could walk without the throbbing or limping. The thing is with dislocations, if any of you have ever had something dislocated, it seems that you're always vulnerable in that same spot afterward. I think that's because the tendons or ligaments get torn or compromised in that area, and that makes that spot susceptible to reoccurrences for the dislocation to happen again in the same place with like little effort. And this is what happened to me. It was like my pinky toe had some kind of a beacon on it, so that every time I'd pass the corner of a dresser or the corner of my bed frame when making the bed, that damn pinky would get caught and dislocate. Except I never needed to get medical treatment for it again because whenever it happened, I'd take matters in hand and quickly reset that pinky on my own on the spot. I did pay attention to the doctor who reset it and figured out how to do it myself, but in one fell swoop, one pull. None of this twist and turning crap he pulled on me. And it seems to me that beacon on my right pinky toe must have lasted for about 25 years. And then it just stopped happening. Same thing happened to my mother, who dislocated her shoulder falling off of a horse. She had to have it reset at the hospital, but it was compromised after that. And that's a very painful thing, a dislocated shoulder. Several times after that initial incident, my mother could be just doing any mundane task like sweeping the kitchen floor. I remember when this happened, when out of nowhere, the shoulder would just pop out and she'd be writhing on the floor in agony. This potential redislocation of her shoulder lasted for probably a couple decades, and then it stopped, kind of like my pinky toe. But my daughter, on the other hand, she had dislocated her shoulder at work after slipping and falling on it for a number of years whenever it popped out, and it wasn't too frequent. She could get it popped back in until she couldn't. Then it became a surgical repair. You know, isn't it funny how we just take our toes for granted as long as they don't hurt? You know, they're just there, the toes. But the minute they're injured, that's all we can think about, the toes, the pain, and the inability to walk with ease. And here I am 40 years later, and I still can't tell you how my toe got dislocated in the middle of the night. I still can't tell you. So, in conclusion, and for whatever it's worth, this is my little protest against his story. This is me telling my story, my way, for the record. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And I would love to hear your stories as well. So please feel free to share your stories in the comments. Until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.